Okay, so here we go. 4.6 multiply fractions. All right, so first let's start with fractions and whole numbers. And what I mean by that means fractions times fractions and fractions times whole numbers. Obviously, we know how to do whole numbers times whole numbers, but basically we're dealing with fractions, whole numbers, and mixed numbers, and any combination, right? That's what we're going to do today. So fractions times whole numbers times fractions, fractions times mixed numbers times whole numbers. Throw in some negatives in there, and it's all gets jumbled up. But if we follow the same basic rules, we're going to be okay. So let's start with the easiest type of problem, which is a fraction times a fraction. Something like this: 3/5 times 1/2. All right. So with fractions, we know this is great because you can just multiply across. You don't need common denominator. 3/5 times 1/2 is simply 3/10. Make sure that we're simplified. This one's good to go. We're good to go. Okay. So that's a good example of one that is when we don't need to do any sort of simplification or anything like that. All right. What if we have a fraction and a whole number, right? So like, for example, 2/3 times a -4. Check that out. Okay, 2/3 times a -4. So first thing I want to look out for is, remember, when I see a negative sign, the alarms go off. Okay, that means I got to pay extra attention. I have a positive times a negative, so my answer should be negative, right? Okay, when the signs are different, it's going to be negative. Okay, so now I don't know what to do with this whole number. So again, the key is change the whole number to a fraction. Okay, change whole numbers to fractions. Fractions operate best when they're fractions with other fractions. So a whole number doesn't work out so well, but if we change it to a fraction, then it's no problem. Now it's like, oh, that's easy. 2 times -4 is -8. 3 times 1 is 3. Now, I'm actually okay with this answer. You can leave it like that, or if you want, you can change it to its mixed number form, which would be 2 and 2/3, negative. Okay, so either of these answers would be okay. So change the whole numbers to fractions and then multiply, right? And how do I change a number? Remember, how do I change a whole number to a fraction? Remember, every whole number, if you put it over 1, it just becomes a fraction. So remember, every whole number is a fraction, rational numbers. Okay, let's try one more here, a fraction. Let's see, let's say we had something like this. -2/3 times a -3/8. There's a couple different ways you could do this problem. You could either simplify at the end, or you could cross cancel, or rather cancel numbers out earlier. And that's what I would recommend you do, is that you cancel numbers out earlier so that you have smaller numbers to deal with. Sometimes the numbers get really weird and when they're really big and they're hard and you don't know what divides well. So what I would recommend for you is that you divide everything with in its fraction form. You cancel first and then you multiply. So when I look at this, remember, anything from the top can cancel with anything on the bottom, as long as the same number goes into it. So what I look at, I see 3 and 3. Those are the first ones I see. Okay, so I would cancel first. So what goes into both 3 and 3? Well, 3 does, right? 3 goes into 3 one time. 3 goes into 3 one time. Oh, sorry. Before I forget that, remember, I have a negative times a negative, so my final answer will be positive. So that's very important for you to remember in the very beginning. Your answer will be positive. Okay, next. I have 2 and an 8, right? So what goes into 2 and 8? Well, 2 goes into 2 one time. 2 goes into 8 4 times. So whatever is left is what you get, right? 1 over 4. And again, the negatives cancel out, so it should be positive 1/4. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, let me show you what happens if you were to do it the other way. The other way you could do this, okay, is if you cancel at the very end. If you cancel at the very end, you end up like this. 2 times 3, negative times negative positive is 6. 3 times 8 is 24. So you could do that, and then you could simplify in this step. That's also okay. You can also say at the very end, well, I just want to divide at the very end instead because I don't want to cancel anything out. The problem with this is sometimes you end up with bigger numbers this way, and I'd rather have small numbers. I like doing math with small numbers a lot better than big numbers. Unless I'm talking about my bank account and how much money I have, then I want that to be a bigger number. But otherwise, I like small numbers, right? So then I have to say, okay, well, divide by 6, top and bottom, and I get 1/4. So it doesn't matter when you cancel, except I would cancel early because it is, I would cancel and then multiply across. That's how I would do it. Cancel and then multiply. Okay. If you do it the other way, you have to simplify at the end. Okay, so pretty simple, right? When you have regular fractions with regular fractions with whole numbers, yeah? That's not the hardest part, right? The harder part comes when we deal with mixed numbers. So let's go ahead and talk about mixed numbers. That's where we're going to spend a bulk of our day today. Mixed numbers are tricky because we just in generally don't like mixed numbers, right? They're just hard to work with. So here is one way that we can do a mixed number, okay? Let's start with relatively positive 1/2 times 4 2/5. All right, so again, it's hard to do a fraction and a whole number, and a fraction and a mixed number is even harder. So this is the key. The key step is change your improper fractions, or change your mixed numbers to improper fractions. Okay, change your mixed number to an improper fraction, and then you're going to multiply. Then you'll do your canceling and everything like that. So let's do that. So I have 1/2 still times, and then let's change this to an improper, right? 4 times 5 is 20 plus 2, right? So times here plus here, and I get 22 over 5, right? Okay, can I cancel? Probably. Go ahead and finish the problem off. Simplify it as you need it, okay? That becomes a 1. That becomes an 11, okay? So my final answer is 11 over 5, or 2 1/5. That make sense? You guys see that? Okay. So basically, fractions work better with fractions. So change your mixed number and your whole numbers to fractions, improper fractions, and then multiply across, cancel, do all the stuff you need to do. Right. Now, I will say this. On certain problems, okay, there's a shortcut. And I want to show you the shortcut method that you could use, okay, on some of these problems. So check out this shortcut. The shortcut you could take, and it doesn't work every time, okay? So that's what I'm calling a shortcut, right? It's kind of like when you're playing a video game. Sometimes you have a shortcut that could work, and then if you try it on another level, then it doesn't work out, right? It doesn't work out for you. So check out this shortcut. Let's go back to the same exact problem. 1/2 times 4 2/5. One way I could do that is I could say, well, can I take 1/2 of 4 and then 1/2 of 2/5? Right? Like, think about it this way, right? Like, let's say you had, 10 Snicker bars and 8 Kit Kats, right? If you wanted half, then just do half. You don't have to put them all together, right? You could say, well, half the Snickers and then half the Kit Kats, and then work, right? You do half of each. So that's what we're going to do here. Check it out. 1/2 of 4 is equal to 2. 1/2 of 2/5, right? If I have 2/5, then half of it would be 1/5. And you see how I still got the same answer? Now, does this shortcut always work? Unfortunately, no. Well, when does it not work? Well, just think about it. What if this was, instead of 2/5, this was 3/5? Wouldn't that be kind of harder, right? Now I have to take half of an odd number, and that wouldn't work out so well. So let me show you that real quick. So if I tried to take 1/2 of like 5 3/5, 1/2 of 5 gives me another fraction, and I don't want that, right? So it wouldn't work here. This is not when you use the shortcut, okay? The shortcut only works when the numbers divide evenly, when it divides well, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. And if the shortcut doesn't make sense to you at all, don't even use it. The improper, changing everything to improper, will work every single time. So let's try another couple of examples of this. All right, 1/4 times 8 4/9. Go ahead and do that, and then once you think you got it, go ahead and put it in the chat. Again, it's best probably for you guys to change to improper. That's what I would recommend. Okay, good job, Chris. Good job, Madeline. All right, let's see some other people try it in the chat. And if we still need a little help, I can help us out. All right, anyone else want to give a shot? Okay, here we go. Let's try to, again, we don't like mixed numbers. Let's change it to improper. So here we go. This one's already 1/4. That's fine. All right, let's change this to improper. 8 times 9 is 72. Plus 4, okay, is 76 over 9. Ooh, I don't like that number, 76 over 9. Hopefully something cancels out, right? That'd be a lot better if something cancels out. So 76 is like, I don't know what goes into 76. But let's think about it, right? What we want to have go into it is the 4. It's an even number, so we know 2 goes into 76. Okay? But does 4 go into 76? Well, let's think about it. A number that 4 is really close to, or that 76 is close to, is 80. And this is just 4 less than that. So if you can take away 4, then you're actually going to be in good shape. So the way I think of it is to say, okay, well, I know that 4 goes into 76. The question is how many times? Oops, I want that to be a 1. How many times does 4 go into 80? Well, 20 times. So that means this is 1 less. So that's going to give us 19 times. So you could, now let's multiply across. You could say that's 19 over 9, or you could say 2 and 1/9. Either answer is okay. Now, this is actually one where you could have used the shortcut method. What do I mean? Well, 1/4 of 8 is 2. 1/4 of 4/9 is 1/9. So you could have used the shortcut method. It doesn't work all the time. On this one, it would. That was a tough one. Let's try another one here. See how we do. Let's try to get a few more people put the answers in the chat on this one. 2 and 1/4 times a negative 2/3. 2 and 1/4 times a negative 2/3. Let's give it a shot. All right, good job, Jaffe. Good job. Good job, Chris. Good job, Madeline. Close, still say. Be careful. Simplify. All right, better. Good. Okay, good. Seems like we're getting a little bit better at this. Hopefully, a few more people are getting there. We got a few answers in the chat. Looking pretty good. All right, anyone wants to give it a shot? I'll give you guys about 10 more seconds. All right, let's take a look. Here we go. Now, the first thing I want you to be aware of is I see a negative sign. I see a negative sign right here. Remember, no, that should be sign. That should mean things are going off in our head, right? Things are going off our head. Negative signs. Positive times a negative, so I know our answer is going to be negative. The final answer will be negative. Okay, so here we go. First step, change our mixed number to an improper fraction. 2 and 1/4 becomes 2 times 4, which is 8, plus 1 is 9/4. Now we're going to multiply that by our negative 2/3. All right, and then we see if things can cancel. And yes, a lot of stuff can cancel here. So let's take a look. We're going to say, all right, 4 and the 2, right? That becomes a 1. That becomes a 2. The 9 and the 3 cancel, right? That becomes a 1. That becomes a 3. And so there's nothing left. So we get 3/2. But remember, negative. Okay? Don't forget about that negative. Negative 3/2 or negative 1 1/2. All right? I feel like we're still not quite there yet, so that's okay. Let's try another one. We got we have a little bit of time here. No, not plenty of time. We have time here. Let me put another one up here that's kind of similar. Just so we can get a really good feel for these stuff. And again, we're going to spend 2 days on this lesson. So if you're not quite getting it yet, that's okay. Don't fret. We will get it. All right. How about this one? So all right, give that one a shot. All right. Good job, Madeline. Yep. Yes, Jinfei. Yes, Chris. All right, let's take a look. Here we go. Again, here we go. So we get, this becomes 16/5 times 3/8. 16/5 times 3/8. And then we look, can we cancel? Is there anything that we can cancel? Right? 3 and 5, no. 8 and 16. Oh yeah, we could definitely cancel 8 and 16. Right? I know that 8, so if you're having trouble with canceling, what you have to think about is what number goes into both, right? In this case, the number 8 goes into both, right? 8 goes into 8 one time. 8 goes into 16 two times. You're essentially dividing 8 out of both numbers. And now you multiply across. 2 times 3 is equal to 6. 5 times 1 is equal to 5, right? 2 times 3 is equal to 6. 5 times 1 is equal to 5. So you can write it as 6 over 5 or 1 1/5. All right. There's one more type of problem. I know this is, if you're still struggling with this one, that's okay. Again, we're going to spend some time on this. The last type of problem is something that, what if I have mixed number times mixed number? So for example, like this, 2 1/3 times 3 1/4. This is the hardest type of problem because you have to do two mixed numbers. And again, if you're having trouble, you're struggling a little bit on the homework tonight, just do your best. And don't worry, we're going to go over some more tomorrow. So if you don't get everything, that's okay. All right, so I'm going to walk through this one with you guys, just in the interest of time. When you have two mixed numbers, again, same thing. Change them to improper fractions, right? Change to improper. So 2 times 3 plus 1, 6, 7 over 3, times 3 times 4 plus 1, 13 over 4. Now, unfortunately, nothing cancels. 7, 3, 13, 4, they don't cancel. In fact, 3 out of the 4 numbers are prime numbers. It's not going to work. So all we got to do then is multiply across. 7 times 13. Well, let's do 3 times 4 since I know that one's easy. 12. 7 times 13. I'll do a little work there. 7 times 10 is 70. 7 times 3 is 21. I get 91. And you can actually keep the answer just like that. That could be your final answer, 91 over 12. Or if you want to write it more like a mixed number, you're going to get 12 goes into 91 7 times. Because 7 times 12 is 84. Plus 7 left over. Either of those numbers work. So let's recap a little bit. I know this was kind of a longer lesson. So let's recap way back to the beginning and see what we did. And you'll see we actually do the same thing kind of for all of these. So going way back to the beginning, we look at two fractions and we say, all right, multiply across. That's it. Just go straight across, right? So from here to here, 5 times 2, 3 times 1, multiply straight across. On letter B and C, okay, you might have to do some canceling or changing whole numbers to fractions. That's what we did here. And then we also made sure we watch out for negative signs. And we canceled out where we could. Okay, so we canceled. That's what we did to get our final answer. When we're talking about mixed fractions, or mixed numbers rather, you have to change your mixed to improper, and then you do all the same steps. We did find a shortcut. That only works sometime, but if you like it, go ahead and use it. Otherwise, don't worry, just use the change mixed to improper. And then for these last couple ones, we had to deal with different things, but we said, okay, if I can change a mixed number to improper, then I can multiply. I just got to be able to cancel out.